Colossians 2:5. For though I am far away from you, my heart is with you, and I rejoice that you are living as you should and that your faith in Christ is strong.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Maia Moments. I'm here today with a very incredible woman of God. She's being used in so many different ways, and it's just a blessing to be acquainted with her and to know her. Tianna Horsey. I'm just so glad that you're here and that we were able to make this happen.
Oh my gosh,
because
likewise.
you're so busy. So I am honored for you to be here. She is a singer and a worship leader, a songwriter. And I'm really excited to see how God continues to use you even past this time. Like in the future, it's beautiful to see your wings start to soar even so early from, it's not like you're new to songwriting or singing and worship leading, but, I think God has equipped you to have like a career that's gonna soar in a quick time. That's beautiful to see. But anyway, how do I know Tianna? I actually met Tianna. We're both Liberty graduates, and I met her. I think it was a biblical worldview class. I can't remember. It was either a Bible class or a biblical worldview class. But anyway, she sat next to me, or I sat next to her. We were sitting next to each other, and she was just like, "Hi, how are you?" She's like, "Hi, how you doing?" This like freshman year, "How you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine, great." And we had exchange numbers, and then I actually switched out of class, so I really didn't see Tianna after that because I didn't like that teacher, and it didn't work in my schedule. So I was like, gotta go. Ad drop week is a blessing. But yeah, and then I remember the next time I seen her, I think she was on stage for the worship collective. I was like, wait a minute, I know her. Wait a second. She's on worship collective. And it was just so beautiful to continue to see her worship throughout her time at Liberty. And we're acquainted, from mutual friends and stuff like that. But I'm just so glad that you're on, and to have you on. Is there anything you want to start out and say anything about?
Gosh, Maia. Well, thank you so much for having me. You inspire me so much with just your drive, your talents, just because you are an acting queen. You speak like no other.
You.
Not only that, but you're just such an amazing person. So I'm seriously praying for your podcast.
Thank you so much.
I love it. I'm a fan. So it's an honor to be on here and get to talk to you and just hang out. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so I think just going to your Genesis, I always kind of ask people, where's the Genesis? Where do you feel God started you at? Wherever you feel like God has creatively purposed you. So where do you see the beginnings of maybe writing? Maybe it wasn't for singing, maybe it was just writing, or did you have a love for that? Or maybe just your heart for worship and singing. Where did that start at the earliest parts of that you can remember from?
Yeah. Okay. So what's crazy is I actually started as a musical theater junkie. So I have been, I did musical theater since I was 7 years old, was in plays every season, all the time. That's all I did. And
love to see it.
Literally, you're living my dream life right now. But so I then went to a performing arts school from 6th grade to, it ended up being 11th grade, but it was from 6th to 12th grade, the school. And you have to audition to get in. And I was a drama major and a vocal major. And literally, they ask you, I still have it. In 6th grade, they make you write this thing. And they're like, what college do you want to go to? What do you want to do? And I literally wrote, I was like, I want to go to Juilliard and I want to be on Broadway. That's all I wanted to do. That was the goal. But I grew up in church, just never, I guess I never used that as an outlet of singing and stuff. I was just so involved with musical theater and stuff. And then it wasn't until, it's crazy, in my freshman year of high school at the performing arts school, I had to take a music theory class and was like, oh, I hate this. If I have to do this, I want no parts of musical theater.
It's true.
I was like, I want no part. And I started to really find myself kind of disconnecting from like singing in general, because I just was like, if this is my gateway to being able to sing, I just have no desire. And then my sophomore year, I got introduced to worship leading. And it's also part of my testimony, but I was like, being a musical theater person and being like in plays and stuff, I'm used to like a script. Everything, whenever you step out on the stage, you already know what you're supposed to say. You already know what you're supposed to sing. And I was like, guys, like this is kind of awkward, no? And I remember one of my mentors, he was like, he's my mentor now. When I first met him, he was like, just imagine like you're just looking at the face of Jesus as you sing and as you lead. And the
That's
Lord dropped on my
good.
heart. He was like, it was like, but I would be no different because you don't really know me like that. So I was like, okay, even if the
Wow.
face of Jesus is in front of me, it would be just like any person in this crowd because I don't know him. And ever since then, I've just been walking with the Lord in everything I do, every worship event I do. I always literally think of like the face of Jesus in front of me, before me. And yeah, that's how I started like leading worship. And then now I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for someone that grew up in church, for a lot of people that grow up in church is what I'm saying. I don't necessarily hear that not being the case. You know, like you grow up in this environment, and the truth is, you really think that you know God. You really think that you know Jesus.
Yeah.
Like you really think that it's personal for you until you're taken out of that environment, and then it's like, okay, I don't get it. And so I think that when you got that word, that was probably God's, introducing himself to you for the
Yes.
first time. That's just beautiful. Wow. Okay. So I think that kind of answers the question as well. Like, how did your relationship with God begin, even? Because, that's kind of where the spark would happen, would you say, for you?
Yes, 100%. I was like, and I remember being in my drama classes and just like having my headphones and listening to like worship music so loud. And like I would just
Wow.
literally listen to that nonstop, because I'm like, not only am I like just figuring out worship, but like even figuring out like what my posture should be, learning from like icons like Kim Walker, Stephanie Gretzinger, like just watching these women. And like my teacher's like, hey, hello, Tianna. And I'm like, oh, sorry, here, I'm back. Oh, take this off.
Yeah. No, but you were being equipped even at that time for where you are now. And
Yes.
I think for a lot of people, when you're not obedient and you're not listening to the wisdom, that you're like, oh, it didn't work. I don't have to do that right now. I'll do that like in 10 years and stuff. You either stunt your growth because you're going to have to go through some maturing, and
Yeah.
maturation comes through you listen to the wisdom of God sometimes, or God having to force it. I'd much rather, God, you just tell me what to do and I'm obedient than
Look,
something have to happen and it have to alter everything. Okay, so
literally.
now that you know God for yourself and everything, you get to Liberty, which I'm sure is a whole ordeal in itself. So how did you get a part of, like you said, Juilliard, but like you went to Liberty University? So like bridge that gap.
Yes.
What happened there? Was
So,
Liberty where you wanted to go, or?
okay. Yeah. So, as I like got older, I started to get, I think the whole music theory thing really just turned me off from musical theater. And as a whole, I was like,
I
golly, no,
understand.
I can't do this. But I still did plays here and then, but I actually started playing softball my in seventh grade, and like fell in love with it, started doing that. That was like my all day, everyday thing, kind of. And I was still
Wow.
at the performing arts school, so I was still like doing plays here and then, but like more so like training for softball was really what I was doing. So once I was a senior in high school, I was on the varsity team, North Carolina A&T. I was going to go there and play softball. That was like the plan, really, for a very long time.
Right. Okay.
And my mom, it's crazy. My mom, my sophomore year, she was like, you should look into Liberty University. And I was like, there's actually no way I'm going to a Christian college. You cannot, like, no. And she's like, just look at it. Just look at it. So fast forward to my senior year. I'm like, all right, let me just look at the school, see what they have. And that's when I was really like leading worship with my church and stuff. Um, and I
Makes
got to go
sense.
on their website and I saw that they have a worship team. Back then it was like 7 or 8 different worship teams and you auditioned for one of them or whatever. So I was like, all right, well, they say they do the auditions. And not only that, it's so bizarre. So I was like, okay, they have these auditions, whatever. Leave it alone. It's crazy. My life is insane. I moved to Cape Cod, Massachusetts,
Love
my
that.
junior year of high school, and had a friend that was still at CAB at my performing arts school in Delaware. And randomly, so random, I had never talked about Liberty or anything. This is my junior year. She sends me a Snapchat and she's like, Tianna, you have to look into this school. And I'm like, what school is it? And she's like, Liberty University. I was like, oh,
What?
Lord, God, no. Like, I already knew what the heck he was doing. I was like, no. So I tell my mom or whatever. And so she's like, they have CFAL, like, you should go. So my senior year, I end up going to CFAL in September of 2016. And I auditioned for the worship team, not expecting much out of it. I go, fall in love with it. Not only that, but I met Philip at that CFAL.
So you met Philip at CFAL at Liberty.
Yes.
Wow.
So I met him September of 2016 at Collective Auditions. And I fell in love with the school. My mom was like, it was crazy because she had told me I like went and did my own thing, and she had ended up going to one of their like financial classes for parents or whatever.
Right.
And she told me that like she left and was like in tears because my mom's a single mom. She was kind of just like, I can't do this. Like, I will not be able to do this. And she's in love with this school. And I was like, I mean, I would love to go here, but I have a 2.9 GPA and the average is like a 3.5. So I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the Lord obviously had a different plan. And I remember literally like, I applied and I was like, Philip and I, we were talking like as friends right at this time. And I was like, I'm just going to apply. Like, if I'm supposed to be somewhere, the Lord will make it happen. Like, if I'm supposed to be there, he will provide. I don't need any type of credentials. Nothing will stand in the way of what he wants me to do. And so I ended up getting accepted, and they gave me a lot more money than for being on the worship team than North Carolina did for the softball team. So I was like, ooh, yeah, let's go to Liberty. And it helped that Phil was going to go there too. So that probably helped a lot.
A little nudge.
Just a little push.
A little push.
But yeah, so that's that like whole story kind of.
Wow. Coincidentally, I actually went to CFAL. So like similarly, I probably have never even told anybody this. I actually auditioned for the Collective during my CFAL. I auditioned for the Collective during my CFAL before I got to Liberty. And yeah, nothing came of it. I kind of just wanted to do it to get out of my comfort zone. And I knew that I wanted to go to Liberty from when I got there. I knew that I wanted to do theater. So I was just trying to like audition, dibble and dabble. There wasn't really much to do for theater department when you're a CFALer. And yeah, I got to meet Liberty, who was a part of the Collective at that time. And I forget the gentleman's name who was I think he was over everything at that point. I think so.
Or Matthew or Matt. Lewis or Matt.
Yeah. It was. I can't remember his name, but he played the accompaniment on the piano, and yeah, it was really. It was really. It felt really good to just be at Liberty during CFAL. I don't think people talk enough about CFAL. When you're a CFALer, it's a very different experience.
Well, okay, this is the thing. This is how they get you, because no other school does college for weekends. So as a high schooler, I could literally go to the worst school in the world, and if I get to be there for 3 days, I'm in love. That's how they get you.
I'm telling you, the amenities. They be kitching you. They be like, look, I'm gonna reel you in.
Phil and I, we used to be like, oh my gosh, it's CFAL. We have to go to the Rock. Like, it's the best food that they make.
Always. CFAL is a totally different perspective when you're actually a student at Liberty. Like, oh, CFAL? Okay, well, the food's gonna be good this weekend. But anyways, okay,
Literally.
so you get there, you're a part of the collective now. Is this when your desire for writing happens? And then, like, how long were you on the
So,
team? Like, what all
yes.
happens once you're on the collective at Liberty?
Yeah. So actually, I hated songwriting until about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think
That's
it was
so
2 years ago.
hilarious to me. That really
It's
is.
bizarre. So I really didn't like songwriting, didn't do anything with it. I would try every once in a while and I'm like, this is so weird. This song is so corny that I've written, like, no. Um, but when I first got on the collective, they had this thing called the mentorship program where you're pretty much like mentored by an older person on the team. And my person was this girl, Mary Callie. And they just kind of like, you get to meet with them every once in a while. You're not leading, so you're just kind of watching, which is, I think, so important for just a 17, 18-year-old
Yeah.
student coming from a small
Yeah.
town or something where they were the best thing. And now they're
Exactly.
surrounded by thousands of people. And so I just got to like sit under leadership and like chill. But I didn't start songwriting until I think like when was it? Until like my senior year of college, really. So
Wow.
like the beginning of senior year, end of junior year.
That's crazy. Okay, so I think if people don't know this, if they don't go to Liberty, this is kind of Liberty culture, and we're talking about Liberty because we kind of have to. But
Yeah.
so when you are a part of the collective, you're very visible. You're traveling, you're a part of the worship team. And if you're going to a Christian school, of course, the worship team is going to become a part of, like, the celebrities on school. Kind of, they can become that type of thing. So you became someone of influence, whether intentionally or unintentionally, just because you're really visible. And then you start becoming a little bit more vocal about social justice issues, which, if you know our school, it's conservative. So, like, what was that experience like? Because I know for even me, I protested it at Liberty. So we didn't have the best response, and that was a lot of hoop and bounds. But the culture there, being someone of, from me, I've always said, being from California and NorCal, I had a very different culture, a very different perception of what Christianity looked like and what a
Yeah.
Christian did and how they conducted themselves. And so it was culture shock to know that people had a difference of that, especially when it came to like being Black or being a woman in these leadership positions and what that meant, or even like racism and different political things. Like, how did your experience about social justice feel for you at that time? And what did that look like?
Man, Maya. Okay, so let's preface, before I like went to Liberty, I had no idea what Liberty was. So like I didn't know that it
Same.
was a Christian conservative school. I didn't know who Jerry Falwell was. They were like, "You don't know who I'm like, "I don't know who that is." I knew none of
Nope.
this stuff.
Nope.
So my
I'm glad you
very
said that, because
first
I didn't
my
either. I didn't know what a conservative meant. I was like, conservative? Oh, conservative. Okay. What does that mean?
I'm okay,
Okay.
and I'm from Delaware. Literally, hashtag Joe Biden's home freaking. Like
Literally.
I'm so over there. I'm in the north. Like we are so, I don't know. So I knew none of this. My first convocation, I'm sitting there and Tommy Lauren walks up on stage. I have no idea who this woman is. I'm like, oh, okay, she's cute or whatever. I've heard like she's kind of crazy, but I'm like, oh, whatever. She starts screaming about building walls and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And everyone's clapping. And I actually remember I like got up and like went to the bathroom and sobbed. And I called my mom and was like, Mom, where am I? And I remember my mom being like, just like as a mom, she's like, they're paying for your school. Just get the degree and you'll be out
Come
of there.
on. It's true. Yeah.
And so I just like that. But that was like the beginning. And I remember like I was very like in the beginning, super, super mind my business. Don't talk about it. We'd be in vans headed to like places and they'd get in like with the collective and they'd get into like heated conversations, not saying anything disrespectful, but just what their opinions are. And I remember literally sweating because I'm like, I highly doubt that anyone in this van agrees with what I agree with.
Yeah, and
And
that's the thing. You don't know where to fit
yes,
in certain
girl.
conversations because it gets to the extreme where if you do have a different belief, it's almost looked at as you're not a Christian. It's like,
Yeah, literally, literally. So I just I would just stay to myself, mind my business, just kind of, especially I actually just put out a on oh my gosh, what is it? YouVersion. We just put out a devotional called Trailblazing Women, and
oh
I'm day 5, and I
my
actually
gosh.
like talk about it a little bit. But yeah, so I was just so like, let me just mind my business, especially being in leadership. It's so easy for me to not be affected by it. Like a lot of people will ask me even today, they're like, oh, like, how was your experience at Liberty? I'm like, I loved it. I would never let my kids go though. Like I had a great, yep, there it is. I I had a great experience, but I would never allow my kids to go there just because I had something that they wanted, pretty much in a sense. And so um not until my junior year when the whole like George Floyd thing happened over the summer. There was just so, I think that really was like the tipping point for like our student body, really, because I think we saw a lot of it at the top and we started to hear like the opinions of like our peers and like what they think. And
Absolutely.
I was like, okay, I'll repost a little something, but not too much because I don't feel like, and the Lord was really just like, Tianna, like, if they are willing to hear your voice sing every week, 3 times a week, they should be willing to hear your voice
Yeah.
speak and what you
Talk.
believe.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You're so right. And not only that, but like, even if it's not affecting me right now, this is going to affect me eventually, whether it's me or with my children. Like, my children are going to be Black also. So I just was like, no longer am I just going to sit and allow people to just blare out whatever they want, not thinking about the fact that I am a Black woman. I am I am a Democrat. So like, don't just say whatever you want to say and think it doesn't offend me or I have a different opinion.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I got to actually, like, that summer, I pretty much told like my boss and stuff, like, I like will leave if we don't figure this out. Like I won't stand for it. And I got to have like great conversations with Pastor David and like even like huge shout outs to like to Jamila, Doreen, like those women were having the conversations that no one else was willing to have. You, Maia, like Cam, all of y'all were just having like serious, like
Thank
having
you.
serious conversations, whether it was having meetings with like the student council or if it was in your DMs, actually, like, you know what I mean? See, things that we don't even get to see, like you standing up for what we believe in and what we deserve. And so I got to have like great conversations with Pastor David, and he's amazing. We like
Yeah.
got to put some stuff
Yeah.
into like, it was great. But my senior year was like, I don't think I went a day without having a conversation with someone. I was like, y'all, come on, like I was having
Wow.
conversations with like students, with my peers, with people 24/7, just because I was like, and look, you're going to hear what I have to say and it's going to be intelligent. It's not going to be ratchet. It's not going to be a mess.
Right. No, no, no. Yeah.
I have
Just
my
that I'm
stuff in
coming with the
line.
facts.
And so, yeah, so it was really just, which I'm so grateful I went because I think it grew me in a way that I needed to be grown. And like, it just taught me like really like how to stand in what I believe. And when there's a whole bunch of, which is crazy because when I went to Liberty, I was like, oh, yes, like now, because I went to public school my whole life. So I'm like, now I
Yeah.
can be around Christians who understand.
Yeah.
And girl, that was literally like, I'm
No.
like, this is where
No.
what you believe is like tested, and this is when you become the
Absolutely.
strongest.
And it goes without saying that there has been, like, I've been friends with people who came to Liberty thinking the same thing, and they actually walked away from the faith because it was just too
Yeah.
overbearing for them to feel like this is what Christianity looked like. And for me, that's the tipping point. Like that, there's no one that should be leaving from the faith due to the fact that they're around Christians
Yeah.
and they feel
Yeah.
like this is so antithetical to what Christ is about that they feel like they have to leave faith altogether. And so, because of that, it just came with a lot of there was a lot of conversations. My first 2-3 years there were filled with constant conversations about every and anything, and
Well,
I'm
good for
grateful
you.
for
I'm glad
them.
you had those in the beginning because,
Yeah,
girl,
no,
I was
it
ducking.
was, I was ducking. I will say I was ducking in the theater department. I didn't
Okay.
want to be, there's so few Black people in the theater department. And so I just didn't want to be that girl, if that makes sense. I didn't
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah.
the girl that's constantly talking about social issues. But because of who I am outside of the department, there's no ways you can't merge those two identities into one. And so I was known in the theater department to talk about things about race. It just inevitably happened because that's who I am. And so I got those opportunities to speak about things in the department. And I think that, yeah, during the George Floyd time, there was a shift, not only from, the upper and our peers, but it was just like, it was almost like a spiritual shift that happened as
Oh,
well, that
yeah.
people felt they had to be accountable. This moment required more than bare minimum. And it was a time of like, you either are on this side or you're in this side. There is no in between. And so
Yeah.
I was grateful that I was able to be on campus during that time because there were so many people who went to Liberty and they didn't get to see kind of the fruits of all those labors happen. But
Yeah.
it's never going to be perfect. Every campus has its thing, Christian or unchristian. There's gonna be racism and issues on campus, but we were trying to figure out the ones that were on ours and be accountable for that. Okay, so that happens. I also kind of want to touch on the fact that when you got your degree, you did not get a songwriting degree. Or, we do have a wonderful music department at Liberty, and you were a part of it, whether you got your degree through it or not. But why did you choose criminal psychology for your degree? And
Yeah. Yeah.
how does that work? Like, did you have expectations of being an artist and being in the CCM gospel world before? Like, is that your vision? Is your vision coming to pass or
Bro,
no?
I feel like I'm the freaking like storyteller today. I'm like, okay, so back then. No, so when I don't remember how old I was, but it's actually the funniest story ever. So I had loved this TV show called American Horror Story. And
Oh,
there's
American Horror Story.
my favorite season is season 2, and it's Asylum. And there is a psychiatrist on there, and I loved his character. I was like, whatever that man does, he was actually crazy. He was, y'all. I don't want to be, he was a killer. He was a kidnapper. He did all that. It was crazy. But what he was doing was he was the person that prescribed medication to all of the people in the insane
Right.
asylum. And I was like, I want to do that. Not only that, but I loved watching like serial killer interviews. My like ultimate goal was to have a conversation with a serial killer. I was like, I just want to hear.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy.
wow.
I like would love to sit and just pick the brain of a serial killer. And I was like, so I always knew I would do something. So I actually started at Liberty as a biopsych major because I wanted to become a psychiatrist. I wanted to do that. And then I was
Wow.
like, 12 years, nah, no thanks.
12 years.
So
Oh, no,
yeah,
no,
I'd
no.
have to be like, I'd be a doctor. Like, no, not worth it. So, I mean, it is worth it to all the psychiatrists out there. Y'all do
Shout out
that.
to
Y'all got
y'all.
that. Not for me though. And so then I was like, I just became undecided for a little bit. And then and he was like, take a criminal justice class, like just take a class, see how it goes. And I was like, wait, because what I was going to do is become a psychiatrist for criminals. And I was like, why don't I just do criminal psychology? Loved it. I loved it so much. So like I've
Wow.
always had a passion for like just criminals and even just second chances and just being that person that gives them the dignity and stuff like that. But I also have such a passion for worship leading. And people would always be like, well, you can go lead worship in prison, which is fun. I've done it. It's great. But I'm like, I want to be on like the ground with them. When those worship leaders
Right.
leave, I want to be there. But just with, I found even as I like got out of college and stuff, I got to actually talk to a counselor at a male prison. And she just was explaining to me just how like the system is just very intense and like how sometimes they have to be guards just because of COVID. Like everything has like their staff is very, very low. And even like with the times they have to come in, and I was just like, if I have like this gift that will financially sustain me, I can always like volunteer and go into the prisons when I want to go into the
Absolutely.
prisons. You know
Right.
what I mean? And like be that person for them. So eventually I will be definitely like volunteering when I can't wait till I'm like 60 and I'm like that mom that's in the prison,
Aw.
like, hey, girl, that will 100% be me. I like, no doubt about it. So yeah, so it
What a
is weird.
blessing, though.
It's so weird. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally got a degree and like I'm not even using it. But I would not have traded it for the world. Like I had such a good time my 4 years, and yeah, it was
No,
great.
I think I had to come to terms, even as a person for myself, that I can't allow myself to be boxed in. And so I
Mm,
think even with you getting your degree in criminal psychology, people not understanding, maybe people even questioning, like, why would you do that? Like, you have this passion, this gift. I think God works all things together
yeah,
according to his word, and he has a way of
yeah,
like,
Maya.
these are things that have to happen in order for us to be able to get to the goal. And so I have a theater degree, but I'm in the social media marketing world right now. And why is that relevant? Why does that make sense? I have a theory that is going to make sense. I might not understand it now, but
Oh,
by
it
and
will.
by it will. So I think you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and it'll make sense even at that point that like maybe it doesn't start out as you being a counselor for the whole prison, but maybe you're just going once a month, twice a month, maybe once a week to see one person and
Yeah,
speak into their life. But that's beautiful. I think, especially for criminal justice and restorative justice, which you kind of mentioned, like here in the States, we don't really have restorative justice measures. We have a lot of punitive, like someone's going to get
yes,
punished for this crime. And so I've always had that kind of heart, though, too, as well. I used to watch, I don't know if you ever heard of this show, but it's a show that has, it's like called Locked Up on like CNN and
yes,
stuff. I used to constantly
yes.
watch that with my dad. I was always interested in like just like jail life. I don't know. It sounds weird, but I was always interested in like what are they doing in there and like how are people treating them. And I've just never been the person to think because no one is the grand total of their, one mistake that they made or the multiple
Yeah,
mistakes
and
they
that even
made.
is like that's 100% the gospel at that. Like it would be
Yeah.
foolish of me to be like that person did no matter what it was. It could have
Yeah.
been the worst thing you could think of. If the Lord forgave him or her, I
Yeah.
forgive him or her.
Yeah.
And the reality is
Yeah.
like people like the Lord can redeem anyone and
Anyone
anything. And
for any
so
reason.
for any reason. And so it's like,
um,
why is that person? And even if they are in prison, no matter what, they still deserve dignity because they're a human. And so
yeah.
I've always been such a big person on that. And so I'm like, I would love to be involved in like, even Mav right now is like, they're doing like a prison album and like we got to go into a prison and like lead and stuff. And yeah,
Wow.
so like
How
that, the whole like
crazy.
tour and stuff, they're doing like songs and it's so cool, but it's just like they deserve as many second chances as we do. Out here, I lie, I do things every day, I sin, and I'm forgiven every single day. And
Yeah.
they should the exact same.
They
And I'm
should the
not saying
same
there shouldn't
thing.
be justice.
No.
There's a consequence, but we have to like forgive, you know.
Yeah.
And so
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay. So you didn't like songwriting, but now you're in this world. What makes you excited about songwriting now? To like piggyback off that, like, what
Uh,
are you excited about it now? And how does that, I think that kind of goes into the next question, just being like, what does being creatively purposed mean to you? Like, how do you
yeah,
feel about that statement? And what does it mean to Tianna when you're talking about creatively purposed?
yes. Songwriting. I yeah, so seeing junior year, senior year, I started to like fall in love with it. My favorite part of it is really the final product. Getting to see something start from
Yeah.
like a concept to it being an entire song that I can like listen to. That blows my mind every single time I write a song. I'm like, y'all, we
Wow.
really just like wrote this from like something I
Yeah.
wrote in my notes. It's bizarre. I still go into writes to this day and I'm like, I can't write a song. Like it's like trippy to think about. Like I can like actually put words together in melodies. I'm like, Lord, please. But that's how I know. That's how I know that I'm still humble, because I'm like, Lord, if you don't do this, I'll be sitting here looking like
That's good though.
um that's literally with worship leading, with songwriting. I'm like, if I'm not nervous, there's a problem, because then that means that I think I can do it on my own. So I'm
That's
like,
good.
that is that someone, I forget who told me that, but I have rode with it for forever. Um, but even, did you say creatively purposed?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
phrase creatively purposed, like what would you say that means to you?
yeah. The first thing I thought of, which is something that um like I always say, is like collabing with Jesus, really. And like that is like my thing. Every time I walk on a stage, I'm like, we're like
Yeah.
collabing right now, really. It's like a ebb and flow kind of, like I always have to like be repeating in my brain, like, Lord, please give me the things to say. Please give me the things to write on this page. Please give me the things to like sing out, whatever you want. And I've found that every time I do that, he shows up and like shows out. And that has really just been like creatively purposed, is like you are doing something that you love to do, that is creative, that is, it's like a, I don't know, like a deposit or something that you're giving out, but the Lord is also going through that with you. um
Yeah.
and you rely on him to do it with excellence, in a sense. And so
Yeah.
that's what I think of.
Yeah, I love that, especially the excellence. I think for myself, I'm an extra person. I'm just extra in real life. So when I'm doing like things, whatever I'm doing, like a lot of times when people are like, you don't have to do all of that. And I'm like, no, I know this is doing something in excellence. Like I don't have
Yeah,
to do certain things, but I'm doing it because I know me going an extra mile is just me showing God that I'm doing my part. And I know that he'll do his
yeah,
part, but I'm doing my part. I can't just sit on my hands and say, Lord, make it happen. Like I got to be doing my part to make sure that I'm partnering, I'm collabing with him. And collaboration doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It means that you're a part of the
yeah.
process. And so, yeah, that's really good. I love collaboration. Collaboration makes me so happy. Even though I'm kind of an ambivert, like I'm social, but then I'm like not social. But then I'm social, but I really don't like people. But I love people, but I don't really like people. So I love collaboration
Man,
though.
there's an in between for everything. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love people, but then people are people. So okay, so I think closing out though, what point of advice would you maybe want to sow a seed into someone else who maybe is trying to get into maybe songwriting, maybe they're trying to get into maybe worship leading, or maybe just they feel it on their heart, they don't know where to start, they don't know where to go. Like what just seed would you sow into them for them to know that
Man,
maybe you should go this way, or just some advice that you would want to give to them?
yeah. Oh, well, there's like so many things. I think even like as going into like adulthood and stuff, the first thing as a whole in general is literally go with the wave. Go with the wave of every day. Take it day by day. Like I so many times in the past, like how long have I been out of college? 6 months, have been like, where am I going to be in 5 years? That's none of our concern. Like literally take it day by day.
That's
Whatever you think
good.
is best for you right now, go with that and go to the Lord with it all. Even with songwriting, I say like, if you haven't co-written, if you haven't written with another person yet, do it. It will either like bring you closer to like loving it, or it'll make you like hate it. But that's always like that. Co-writing is like when you are bringing your ideas with someone else. And not only has co-writing helped co-writing is what made me fall in love with writing, really. Like
Yeah.
that is what helped me to even begin to write by myself. And not only did it help my writing, but it helped me as a human to be able to allow others to be leaders. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So when I started co-writing, I was like, hold on, because I have every idea that you'd ever need. And the Lord was like, no, you don't, because sis over there, she has a great idea actually. So
Right.
let her talk. And it just helped me as a human, just like be able to be like humble and like let other leaders have their moments and have their time. And just be aware of his presence, like be extremely sensitive to the Spirit of Jesus, Spirit of God, like really take every
That's
opportunity to
good.
him. When you're on stage, he's with you. So ask him in every moment, like what he wants you to do. Like just be super, super sensitive and aware of his presence, because then when you make decisions, when you do things, you've already had it backed up by him and you don't need anyone else to back it up. That's even in a yes, and that's in a no. In your no's, you already have him backing you up. In your yeses, you have his response backing you up. So
That's good.
I think that's my little bit of advice.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm so excited for all that you're doing, all that you've been a part of. Thank you so much for gracing us here. And I have a feeling this won't be the last time you're on the podcast.
Oh my gosh.
So,
This is so much fun, Maya.
Oh,
Seriously,
thank you.
thank
Yes.
you so
Of
much for having me.
course.
I'm like, I could talk to you all day. I'm like, so
Oh. Yes, yes. I love that. I could talk with you all day. That's the whole point. Like, I really love having conversations with people, and I like talking to people just like in my free time. So the podcast has
you're
really
great
been
at
able.
it.
Oh, thanks. Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. But yeah, and congratulations on your nuptials and you getting
Oh,
married
thank
soon. We are
you.
praying for just an abundant and incredible marriage for you and Phil. And I know that you guys would just be blessed even that much more because of it. You can follow Tianna on Instagram at Tianna Horsey. It might be changing soon, for all we know.
It's going to probably change soon, but right now it's Tianna Horsey.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And
Look, if this airs after May 12th, it's Tianna Bowles _.
Oh, she already got the name.
I had to make sure,
Period.
check, see. I'm actually psychotic.
You're
Don't
ready.
mind me at all.
No. I love that. I love that. That's good. That's good. See, she's telling you to prepare. If you want something, you better prepare for it. Come on, somebody.
Prepare.
Okay, but thank you so much for being a part of this, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, guys.